Frothy's May got in strife for throwing the head back, while poor Kenny in Adelaide is copping plenty of flack. Tomahawk's foot has got us wondering if the big man is done, and Paddy went to the tribunal and won. The Bombers fans got excited by young Nate Caddy, while the Swans remind the rest of the competition, who's your daddy? Meanwhile, Rabs is in Bali sipping on a bintang or two, and they have left me in charge of this motley crew. Great to have you with us for Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. It is, of course, for BWS. I'm Jack Heverin. And I am just very, very excited to assemble along this panel. I listen to this show every week, so it's nice to be in the chair alongside First Daisy Thomas. 100 games for the Blues and the Pies. Days, good to see you.
Still the only player in history to do that, Jack. But no, great to have you alongside us. And what a great start. A good poem by you.
Bit of pressure on that poem too.
Plenty of pressure, but well done.
When Rabsy said, I'm going away, can you host? I said, yeah, I'd love to. I'll listen to the show every week. As I say, he said, but you've got to do a poem. So Damien Barrett, best newsbreaker in the business. That poem kept me awake all night.
So it was your work. It wasn't someone else's work you just read out. It was your work. I liked it. Good. Nice, sharp start to our show.
Joey Montagna, Fox Footy's #1 man. Hello, Joey.
Hello, Jack. Yes, well, I think the countdown begins now to finals. Only 9 weeks to go. It's just creeping up on us. The buys are all done and dusted, and now we can start to focus in on the run home, and it's going to get really, really interesting, I think.
9 weeks is a long time still.
Yeah, it'll creep up pretty quick.
Hopefully.
Starting to get a bit
well,
jaded.
Usually around the bye weeks you get jaded because that used to be the halfway point, and you know you had the 8 weeks to finish off the season. I reckon in another 3 or 4 weeks, when you get to round 18, round 19, and you still go, there's 5 to go. We've spoken about this when you could pencil it in your diary, a few wars starting, and a couple have already started.
No, they have. You used to say the ladder was set after round 3, Joey, but you've changed the last couple of years, haven't you?
Just
Because even this
particular.
time last year, Carlton and GWS weren't in the 8.
Yep.
They were about to go on their surges, which got them all the way through to prelim finals. And I got the feeling that Brisbane is that team this year. They're outside the 8 as we speak. And they've got their 4 back.
They are making a charge, absolutely.
You made this on this point yesterday on Footy Talk. And you quoted yourself from earlier in the year saying that somebody will come outside the 8 and you don't have to have a top 4 to be winning it.
Oh, yes. Did I say that?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, no, I think it could be a good reminder that because it is so even. And, I mean, really, we do need Sydney to slip up, to be fair. And it's possible in a prelim and grand final. We've seen teams at the top of the ladder slip up, but there's still just so much to play out. You're right, though. Even though it'll creep up, I think, pretty quickly. The difference now, the ladder's going to flip and flop. You know, Fremantle, for example, if they lose this weekend to Sydney, are probably going to be out of the 8 by the weekend, and teams will jump in. So it's going to keep us on our toes, but we all know they're catching the top 2. I think now Sydney and the Blues are clearly the top 2.
Yeah, they're the 2. Hey, big event in Melbourne tonight, which means you'll be there, Days. The Rugby League State of Origin, to which I'm
Already
referring.
Got every big event these days.
Already got the merch on. How
is that the
good.
Queensland
Yeah, that's
hat?
a Queensland
Oh,
merch.
yeah,
Yes, so I got a parcel in the post throughout the week, just asking for my support, which that's going to change the result a whole lot.
Are you an ambassador for the Queensland State of Origin
I've
team?
done some stuff with Ampol, and they are the sponsors of the event. So nice to go along tonight. Looking forward to it. 80,000+. This is why we are the best sporting state in the nation by a long way, because it's a game that a lot of people don't really give a stuff about, but they will still rock up just for the theatre and the show of it. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
So seeing you've been invited, you'll be behind the glass, you'll be, got a table, you got dinner, what's the sort of plans? You got all that?
Well, I'm going to go to dinner beforehand, not with anyone except me, mate. It's not sort of a sponsor's lunch or a dinner or a president's function, unfortunately, and I'm in level 2 on the outer.
Level 2 on the outer?
Yeah, so
That's
look,
all right. Man of the people.
I've tried this once before when it was Melbourne Western Bulldogs on the opening round after they played off in the grand final on a Wednesday night. Took me 24 minutes to get 2 mid-strings. That ain't it, Damo. That is not it. I'm all for being the people's champ. That's no worries. But if you're going to do that, hurry up and serve your piss at the bars, because 24 minutes, what's that? That's only a quarter of this game that's going to be gone. So that is the beauty of being behind the glass. But I won't be tonight. Calm the Maroons.
Shop early and avoid the rush. Damo's news coming up next. Christian Petrarca, Ken Hinkley, Scott Pendlebury, all on the agenda. Fair dinkum and fugazi, all of our predictions for the weekend as well. It's Triple M Footy's midweek rub for BWS. Go in-store or online for whatever floats your boots and get your drinks for this week's games. Triple M Footy's midweek rub for BWS. Joey Montagna, Daisy Thomas and Damien Barrett with all of the news, including Patrick Dangerfield, who went to the tribunal last night and won, Damo.
And won. So, again, Joey and I have these conversations, and I think Joey knows what I'm going to say here off the top. Friday night incident. Match Review Office gives it a week on Saturday. We debate it to within an inch of its life Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Gets to the tribunal, and then a group of lawyers take 2 hours, including a 45-minute deliberation on the actual outcome. And they determined that what the match review office wanted to send as a message with a dangerous tackle was not the case, and Paddy's free to play. I say that because, yet again, we've taken 5 days to work out what is and isn't dangerous inside a split-second moment in a game of footy. And I don't claim to know what the solution is, but I just feel there's a better way and a better system that could be implemented than the way it's going at the moment, because a group of lawyers ultimately are determining policy on behalf of the AFL.
Yeah, you've been strong on this, and as you said, it's hard to disagree. I don't know what the solution is either. To be fair now with him getting off, I thought the suspension would stand only because my understanding was that you had to make some sort of effort to release an arm to allow them to either brace themselves or at least show that you were taking a duty of care. But he was able to argue there's another way to show a duty of care despite pinning the arms, and that was his effort to pull him up and to use Paddy Dangerfield's strength. And to be honest, there's probably only a handful of players in the league as strong as Danger that might have even been able to reduce the impact by pulling his upper body up. I don't know if that stands, because now, to me, does that mean the next player that bumps and he says, I tried to get out of the way, but I couldn't, so I took reasonable care, but I still bumped, and even though I tried to get out of the way, I don't know. I'm confused.
I am too. And look, I'm like you. I'm confused. Part of me actually is happy that he got off, because I felt he did take an action that mitigated the damage. But having said that, he still is such an articulate person himself. And he, in that environment last night, even with KCs coming at him and challenging him, he's in his element.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if it's not someone who is as confident with the spoken word as Paddy Dangerfield was up last night, it may have been thrown out for that reason alone. And I just throw it all together because it does confuse me. But you, Dace, your take on it, and the fact that he is playing, I feel was actually, weirdly enough, the right decision, as convoluted as that sounds.
You know that I'm always for the players in these ones, and I think that he should have got off. It was a footballing act. If Sammy Walsh doesn't get up, though, and if he's tackled someone that has a slightly softer head or a harder head, whichever way it goes, and he then goes off with concussion, what are we looking at? How many weeks?
2 or 3.
So, again, it's not how you tackle or sometimes what you tackle. It's who you're tackling as to the result that comes out of it. The overhaul of what needs to happen, and again, we're not providing any solutions or answers here, so it probably is going to be a long process. Something has to change, because it's an absolute disgrace at the minute that we do, one, have to wait, but then it doesn't become anything about the laws of the game or the football.
No,
it becomes
it's a legal argument.
Yeah, legal speak and the way you can manipulate a word. And for Paddy's case, it's, as you said, he speaks really well. So
I just want to remind people, though, that while the tribunal has now made this decision that it's okay, the game itself, at headquarters itself, the football department of the AFL wanted it to be banned.
And we're no clearer, are we?
We're no clearer.
For that suspension.
And this is the point I'm raising each occasion. And even if Dangerfield was not successful last night, he could have had the option to take it to an appeals tribunal, which is another story. So anyway, we move on. That's all now done and dusted. He's playing this weekend. Christian Petrarca on Fox Footy last night, just for the first time publicly, went behind the scenes as to what was being experienced by himself, his partner and his family with the internal damage that was sustained on King's birthday.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's probably been the most traumatic thing I've experienced. I'm getting quite emotional thinking about it. Just I think more just the severity of it, and probably more how much it's impacted my fiance, and that's probably been the hardest thing, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's been challenging for both of us, but we're getting through it, which is the main thing. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
It's been tough. It's something that I think when you get the news that you're out for the whole year, or out for however long you are, it is quite tough, and I am a competitor and want to be out there and be with my teammates and play, and but at the same time, it's kind of been nice to have some alone time and switch off, and just the support I've received from everyone. It's been remarkable. My fiance, my parents, my family, her parents, my friends, just the whole footy world as well has been awesome.
I think we're understanding now that this is probably more serious than we all thought at the start. I was open that I thought the doctors couldn't figure out and describe and diagnose what was the issue at the time, so it wasn't really an issue going back on. The way he's speaking now and talking about emotional and mental trauma that he sort of suffered, wouldn't watch football from that point on. There's certainly more to this, I think.
Yeah, it just shows how scary it was for him and the whole family. I mean, even to spend days in intensive care, you wouldn't wish that on anybody, just let alone playing a game of footy. I think it's hit home that how serious it was, and potentially what could have been even worse situation. But it is by all reports pretty serious, and I think that just portraying the way that they've expressed their emotions.
I don't think it's a stretch to say it was life-threatening given what had happened. I mean, you don't get taken into ICU in those moments unless it is serious, and we knew that. And I was questioning at the time, Days. I mean, I'm not trying to back over what we said. And I just hope that the AFL itself does have a proper debrief on it, because it was something we cannot see repeated again. And the manner in which it happened, and I know the debate was Christian himself asked and urged to go back on, but I still feel there should be a proper line drawn on it from an industry perspective on it. And I know it's not done immediately, but something that needs to be signed off on, I think, before the next season starts as to what happens in these moments. And I know there's still going to be peculiarities with each instance.
I think the players are going to get better at this as well. A bit like the concussion. When you originally thought, oh, no, I'll be right to go back on, there's no real issue, and then we're seeing the effects post. A little bit like, I'm sure Christian was like, geez, I'm sore, but if it's only a rib or something, I'll be fine to continue. I think players will be a lot better at saying, look, it might be nothing, but it also feels pretty bad. We'll go from there.
Where you're drawing the line there, you're talking internal organs. So brain and internal organs is where the line. Yeah.
I mean, rolled ankle. I mean, I think you still can deal with those ones. But look, again, everyone had a different view at the time in question, and you guys are the ex-players. I get that, and I understand that. I'm not, obviously, but I saw enough on that moment of it happening that alarmed me, and I just was absolutely shocked that he went back on, and that's just my reaction to it. Kenny Hinkley, we know under pressure, his own supporter group booing him on the weekend. There's a part of Ken, though, that will fight and seek to fight his way through this, and part of him, I would think right now, would be looking at the ladder, 8-6, 8 wins, 6 losses. They're still in the 8, and they've got St Kilda this week. He's still got, again, a chance to fight his way through this.
Yeah, and there's every chance there will be some more twists and turns. They might, and likely, they could come out and win their next 3 games. And then it's like they're sitting, I don't know, 5th on the ladder and making a charge. But then we still have to wait till the end of the year and what happens in finals. And I do believe there'll be still a lot more to play out. But I suppose, and my point on Sunday night is it almost seems inevitable if they don't get to a prelim and don't improve on their last couple of years with all the noise coming out of the supporter base and even for some board members and those things. It does feel like there is some inevitability about it if it doesn't go the way they hoped.
I was confused as to why they booed him but not the players. So the players came off to raucous applause. Yes, the game plan might not have been what you wanted, but that's buy-in. That isn't the coach's fault that you've gone out and got beaten by an absolute truckload. So to have the players applaud and boo the coach clearly shows the frustration and levels of frustration that they're trying to make a point. This isn't what we're thinking for on-field. It's clearly something to do in the coach's box.
And one more on the news part of our program today. Pendlebury and Mychek expected to return to Collingwood this week. There's still a little bit to sign off on the possibility of Geordie De Goey also being amongst the ins for their game against Gold Coast. Looking quite nicely now, the Pies, your former team Days, just as they've managed to weather this injury storm and stay nicely positioned throughout it all. And now they've got some key players to return.
I love Craig McRae and everything he does right. This is the strength of the bloke and how much he's willing to forgive and move on. Collingwood had the bye on the weekend. A couple of their players made their way to Bali.
Really?
And so this is the responsibility.
Not Geordie, though.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Geordie. But in terms of, we'll treat you like an adult. You go and act like one. It's brilliant. No surprises. Again, they're a side that's sort of sneaking up on people for a bit like Port, for how bad they've been. Port Adelaide 8th, for how bad the Pies have been. They're into 4th. Again, this is a team that's going to get troops back. They've won enough games early on in the season to have a real tilt at it again.
When we talk about players taking overseas breaks during the mid-year, we like to remind our listeners of what you once did at Carlton.
Well, that wasn't
against their knowledge.
That wasn't mid-year. That was Collingwood. Nathan Buckley. I buggered off to Fiji. But the Origin, I used to go to the Origin every mid-season bye. So our training was Wednesday, and the middle week of Origin always fell on that same weekend after, I think it was King's birthday or whatever. So every Wednesday, straight in off the track, straight to the weights room, which was my car, straight to the airport. So the Pies are flying. Look forward to seeing what they can do.
Looking forward to seeing which Pies have got a nice deep tan after a few days away, and we'll know which ones have been to Bali.
Jordan De Goey's not one of them.
Yes.
Triple M Footy's midweek rub for BWS. Fair dinkum or fugazi up next. Let's go, Daisy. Let's start with you. Sam Durham's form will keep Darcy Parish out of Essendon's centre bounces. Fair dinkum or fugazi?
Fugazi. It's a really nice problem to have, obviously, for Brad Scott. But I think the beauty of what Essendon are doing and one of the reasons they've continued to improve, and you look at it on the weekend, they've found a way to include others into the centre bounce. Nick Martin had some time, Perkins, Durham.
Jake Stringer.
Stringer in there as well, Caldwell, and then chucking Merritt and Parrish for a little bit of class on top. When you have those options, plus now they're starting to play a couple of the big tall guys out on the wing in Cox and Jones as well. They've got a few different points of difference to some other teams. So I think it's Fugazi that he'll keep him out, but it's a nice problem to have.
Damo, in the future, Stephen May's staging incident needs to be a week's suspension.
No, I don't mind what they did with the adjudication on him as a fine. It may increase the amount over the journey, but I wasn't wanting to hang him.
How's the beat up?
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Look, the game had to make a statement. It did. It fined him, but I think that's where it stopped and ended, and he won't want to be doing it again. And now that people know that the focus goes on in this bad way, I think that's enough. So, no suspension for such a moment, just heavy fines.
How many times did you get clipped in the head and you get up and you're doing the old, oh, geez, am I
You want
bleeding?
the umpire to see it,
Yeah, or the old late...
That's if you get clipped in the head. He didn't get clipped in the head.
Yeah, but that's it. But you're trying
the
to sell the story. Late in games, players pretending to cramp. It's incredible how much attention
And then everyone's
this
trying
got.
to add in the whole, well, it's the concussion element, but we've still got players that are ducking their heads, getting free kicks for high contact. I mean, that's milking a free kick and getting hit in the head.
I couldn't
and
believe
we get
it.
paid free. They get paid and rewarded free kicks for that. So, yeah, it was a long bow.
Poor Frothies.
Joey, while you're on a roll,
Yeah.
poor old Frothies. James Rowbottom is the unsung hero of the Swans midfield. Fair dinkum or Fugazi?
Well, he doesn't get spoken about because the other three are absolutely flying. So that's fair dinkum. Yeah, but he's a terrific player in his own right. What he does, meat and potatoes, hard working. You need that. You need the balance. You need those guys doing those roles to allow the cream to shine, and that's what he's doing really well.
Daisy, if Port Adelaide move on from Ken Hinkley, should they look outside of the club for the next replacement?
That's fair dinkum. Due diligence is, I think, the word we use in these situations, and you have to go and find yourself a committee, to find yourself a pool of coaches, and then choose the right one from there. So I know that Josh Carr is the man in waiting in terms of a transition, but I think also they will be, whether or not it's publicly speaking, they will go and be sourcing and having chats to a couple of others.
I've got a view, Days, that if and when that happens, and I'm not death riding Ken Hinkley, we just spoke before that he could still fight his way through this, but the moment will come at some stage that they should open it up, like you've just said, that Nathan Buckley would be an option, given his interest now in the Tasmanian job, which is still some years away. Do you reckon he's capable of coaching?
Absolutely. I think we've seen that coaches a second time around. Michael Voss, the perfect example, is that you learn. You learn a lot from what you did right, but also probably more so what you've done wrong through the past. So you can take that. Port Adelaide's got a very nice list as well. We know they're certainly talented, and it's not as if you're picking up and starting from fresh like you are if you go to Tassie. A name that should be thrown into the hat and seriously considered.
With a Port connection too, back in 1992 when he won a McGarry medal, a Jack Oatey medal, a best and fairest, and a premiership for that year before he went into the then AFL
I
for
wasn't
the
going to
Brisbane
go.
Bears.
That was as much of a pump up as I could find.
I was surprised you pumped him up. I threw it to you thinking you wouldn't.
Surely you're right, that no doubt a coach would be better the second time around.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, so why not?
Damo, fair dinkum or Fugazi, Zach Butters needs to dial back on the angry pills.
Yeah, well, he does, because it's costing him a lot of money. Whatever holiday he wanted at the end of the year is going to have to be rethought, because it's up to high 20s now, isn't it, in the past 2 seasons of football that he's now been fined for off-the-ball incidents. Look, he shouldn't have been playing last week where he copped another fine, because he had to take his own case through the tribunal. I mean, he hit a player in the head, Tom Green, the previous week. And I don't know, it was an accident. I know, but again, the game just lets it happen and you can play again. But yeah, he does. It is a fair dinkum statement there, Jackie.
Joey, we're finally starting to see, I'm asking you, not Damo, this one. We're finally starting to see how North Melbourne's game plan is beginning to look and how it's supposed to look. Fair dinkum or Fugazi?
That's an interesting question, because they've stripped it back to basically playing a real 1v1 contest style. So I don't think it's held them in good stead now, but I think that's what they should have done at the start of the year to build a foundation of contest and defence, and then they'll add layers to that from here. So I don't think it will look like this next year. I think they'll be able to add layers next year. But for right now, just to be able to be competitive, pressure, be in contests, and allow the talent to shine, it's been working. So it was a great adjustment. Probably should have started that way at the start of the year.
The adjustment has caught sides off guard a little bit too. So in the next week or two, I believe teams will figure that out as to how you can manipulate a defence that certainly goes one-on-one, and how you can pull players around and exploit that. And I think that all starts this weekend.
Daisy, there's nothing surer than Tom Hawkins getting back for the game against West Coast late in the year at GMHBA Stadium and kicking the goals that he needs to make 800.
Yep, that is fair dinkum, and fingers crossed for Tommy that is the case. I love the bloke. I love what he's been able to do. Been written off numerous times in the last probably 4 years. Continues to find a way. He's one of the good guys at the AFL, but also been a star of that football club. Fingers crossed he can come back and get back, and if Geelong are to play finals, can have a big say in it.
Joey, fair dinkum or fugazi, Ash Chua probably needs to stick to footy.
And for Choice Hotels, it's over in the cricket brownie. Afghanistan have defeated Australia by 21 points. And
21 points? How many majors is that? 2 man?
Pat Cummins with 3 majors. You'll do my boy 4 majors, took 4 wickets.
That is fair dinkum. That's what happens when we venture into territory we shouldn't. And Ash Chua has got no idea about cricket. That was quite funny.
He's had a very interesting year, Ash. In fact, you go all the way back to Gather Round last year. I think he's
that's
never,
where it all turned.
Hasn't recovered.
never ever been the
His
same.
finger's still black from that.
Damo, the Lee Matthews theory shouldn't be that hard to explain.
Well, he'll go back and take his full 30 seconds, have the shot on goal, hit or miss. This will be game over. Not even the Lee Matthews theory will be enough time.
Give us that theory.
You're going to kick, you've got enough minutes on the clock to kick the goals you need. Is that right? What's the theory?
3 goals, 3 minutes. Same amount of minutes as goals, Stevie.
Stevie, what is happening to Sunday?
I knew what he was trying to say, Dave. You were trying to hook him in, but I knew what he was trying to say. Cut him some slack.
I knew what he was trying to say. It's a bit that he just butchered it. Oh, Stephen.
I was listening to that on Sunday in the car. I near on drove off the road.
It is the #1 rating show too. I don't know how.
Entertainment.
Doesn't say much for the competition, does it?
Was it fair? How did you throw it to me? Fair dinkum or fugazi? What was the actual statement you made? It's both.
You stuck up for Stevie, which I think he'll appreciate. He's under the pump. We'll come back and take a look at round 16 on the other side of this. This is Triple M Footy's midweek rub for BWS. Triple M Footy's midweek rub for BWS. Go in-store or online for whatever floats your boots and get your drinks for this week's game. That's refreshingly BWS, not GWS, BWS. Joey Montagna, Damien Barrett, Daisy Thomas, and I probably won't be back next week after that one. Round starts on Friday night, round 16, Lions and the Demons at the Gabba.
You've been flying, Jack, doing a very good job. Brisbane are certainties for me. These 2 teams have had some great history the last 3 or 4 years, played some great games, but this is a different Melbourne team. This Brisbane side are flying, averaging 114 points since round 8. I can't see Melbourne getting near them in this one.
I'm not as confident in saying it's a certainty, but I am going to tip them to beat Melbourne, and Lever coming back will change that dynamic of how Hipwood and Dano have been really, really good the past 3 weeks. Brisbane.
Have to go back to round 13. Sorry, the 13th of May 2017 against the Adelaide Crows as to when Melbourne started as the outsider to this margin.
Right. Long way. That's 7 years ago.
That is a long time ago.
What
Brisbane by how far?
What line are you referring to?
It's 29 and a half,
Right.
and they're also $5 outsiders.
Wow.
Gamble responsibly.
Saturday afternoon, Kangas have been close a couple of times, and they take on the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium.
Damo, you on board?
No.
Notice how we all look straight at you then, Damo.
Well, again, they've won 1 game. They're not going to beat the Bulldogs.
I am big on that theory I just spoke about before. Too many gaspers over the weekend for me on my birthday. I think this is a weekend where the Kangaroos get a little bit of a reality check. Unfortunately, the Western Bulldogs, fresh off a bye, they come out, and I'll be expecting them to win by a large margin.
I thought that last week Melbourne would do a number on them, but North very competitive. They'll be competitive again, but not good enough to beat the Western Bulldogs.
Also on Saturday afternoon at home, the all-conquering Swans play host to the Dockers at the SCG.
Going to be tough, as always. No Alex Pearce. That's a big out for Fremantle. He's been their rock back there all year. Was in all-Australian form. So they'll be competitive, Fremantle, and will they'll be around the mark, but I don't think you can tip against the Sydney Swans the way they are playing.
Similar view. With Pearce in, you could possibly contemplate a selection of the Dockers, given that we all think the Swans are going to drop one somewhere.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't surprise me if it was the Dockers, but not without Pearce.
Sydney.
In a word.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Twilight footy on Saturday, the world-famous People First Stadium on the Gold Coast. The Suns and the Pies. with their new suntan.
Yes. This one is a slightly concerning for me as a Pies fan, of course. The Gold Coast Suns, different team at home. We know that, and I don't think it's because they play the conditions better, just teams play them more poorly, if that makes sense. They allow and invite the pressure because they fumble a little bit more than they do at other grounds. That's the only logic I can put to it. I have tipped the Gold Coast Suns along the week. Some ins for Collingwood may sway me late, but as it sits now, I'll have to follow my form. Gold Coast for me.
Yeah, I know Gold Coast haven't lost at home. 6-day break coming back from Perth. We know they're a much better side, but I think Collingwood are just going to get warmed up and get on a roll. I think they win this one, but it is a danger. I might actually tip Gold Coast as my outsider, but I think...
And also the chance of a draw.
Yeah, but I think Gold Coast should win, Damo.
Collingwood.
I think Collingwood should win.
I'm still to be convinced on Gold Coast making any real impact into the season at all. I know that their home form is really good, as Dave's pointed out, but I didn't like what they dished up last week, and I think Collingwood with those ins that we spoke about before are going to be primed.
Again, we get irate about the Gold Coast and not being able to win away. Is that just their reality? That they are the side that's going to be 8th to 12th again this season?
It's all part of the progress. They're not good enough yet to beat teams on the road. So that's the next part of their evolution, which hopefully comes before they play finals. Well, it has to.
Are they making progress though?
Yeah, I think they're making progress. It's probably slowly. I think though that it'll go next couple of years. They'll be right.
Saturday night at the Triple MCG, it's the Cats and the Bombers in Dyson Heppel's 250th game.
I like the Bombers. Geelong, I just can't have at the moment the way they're playing. I just can't see it. I think Chris Scott will have to get creative and just try and make some change, just try and liven up the place, freshen it up, get something going. But Essendon are going okay. I know there's been a bit of talk about who they've played, but I think this is the moment they stamp themselves and say, righto, we can beat top 8 teams.
Couldn't disagree more. Cats for me. Certainty of the week. Putting Cats, yes. The Hoops. Certainty of the week against the Bombers, who are somehow still in third. Well done to Dyson Heppel, though. Great career and finding some real form in the last few weeks as well.
Cats for me too, but there is no confidence in that tip.
And the Crows coming off the bye. It's Saturday night. They're at home at the Adelaide Oval against the GWS Giants, who were a little off last week against the Swans.
Yeah, they were. I've still got faith in the Giants. I don't know why. I just keep going back to the well and think that eventually it'll click. So I'm just going to keep tipping them. But they keep letting me down, Damo.
I'm on the same wavelength, but I don't know why either. But I've got less faith in Adelaide, so that tip becomes the Giants in this one.
Really great insight. For what it's worth. I've got the exact same theory. Giants should just win for some reason.
They're better than what they're playing. That's sort of it.
And Adelaide are not
Just
great.
average.
For anyone looking to do your footy tips based off that, look elsewhere for the analysis. On Sunday, the early game is the Saints up against the Power, who have had a very, very big week at Marvel Stadium.
You could just say, transplant what we just said about Adelaide GWS on this game, St Kilda v Port. Same reasons. I'm going for Port because I think they're slightly better than St Kilda, but again, no confidence in that.
High degree of confidence that Port find a way to bounce back here. I think against the St Kilda Footy Club, we know don't score heavily, 80 points or less on 10 times this year so far, 10 occasions. Port Adelaide, they were smacked around the footy. We all know that. It is crisis times. It's backs against the wall. It's internal reviews. And the best thing that can happen when this happens is to come out and just play footy. They'll do that and they win.
These are the teams that Port beat. St Kilda aren't a top 6 team. They beat all the teams that are below them and around them, so they'll beat St Kilda.
3:20 Sunday at the MCG. Big crowd, I reckon, as well. Weather looks okay at this stage, hopefully, for the Tigers and the Blues.
We're doing this one, the Sunday Rub, boys. We'll be doing
3:20
the 3:20 game.
Which means we'll have plenty of audio for next week.
2-hour preview, Daisy.
Yes.
Make sure you do some work. Richmond, Carlton, no, the Blues will keep rolling on.
How far?
37 points.
Nice.
Yeah, I think just they'll go through the motions and get the job done.
Similar.
The Blues.
Yep.
And we finish off the round with the West Coast Eagles. Harley Reid back for the Eagles as they take on the Hawks at Optus Stadium.
Yeah, and I like this West Coast forward line now that Oscar Allen's returned to the team, after missing since round 1. And I'm going to tip the Eagles in that. I love what Hawthorn's doing. I still think they can make a run at the 8, but on this particular game, West Coast.
Hawthorn for me in this one, just purely on form. The West Coast Eagles have improved, but they're still up and down, hard to catch. The Hawks have got not only form and a good system, but they've got belief at the minute. And for a young side, that becomes a pretty dangerous prospect when you think you can go out there and win comfortably in the manner they are.
Hawks are flying, but I just wonder whether the bye maybe just halts a bit of momentum. I think West Coast were really good last week. I enjoyed watching them against Essendon here at Marvel, but I think back at home, Harley Reid, maybe Tim Kelly as we speak. The forward line, Liam Ryan playing a bit more midfield forward.
That was a good move.
McGovern and Barras back there for West Coast. I think West Coast at home win this game.
Oh, nice.
Where are we landing for certainties, lads?
I've declared mine with Geelong, and I'll give my outsider to Collingwood because I tipped GWS. Gold Coast.
Yeah, as weird as this sounds, given what I said about the game, but Port Adelaide will be my certainties, and I'm already tipping West Coast, which is an outsider.
Yeah, I didn't realise West Coast were that far outsider. So West Coast is my outsider. Brisbane are my certainties.
Don't forget, of course, you can catch every game live on Triple M. It starts with Brisbane and Melbourne from the Gabba on Friday night following the Friday Huddle with Mark Howard, Jason Dunstall, Luke Darcy, Nathan Brown, and, of course, the Midweek Rub's very own Damien Barrett. Lads, good to see all of you.
Well done,
Jack.
Thanks
Well
for
done,
filling
Jackie
in.
boy.
You've
Come
been a
back
star.
anytime.
Thank you for having me. Midweek Rub is back next week, and it's all for BWS. That's refreshingly BWS.